Hey. So I wanted to talk today about some stuff that I've been thinking about recently about relationships and about love and about spiritual study, and ultimately speaking to the fact that most people on Earth are operating from the place, to some level, operating from the place where they believe that they're not enough. They believe that they're not funny enough or good looking enough or rich enough or tall enough or thin enough or whatever enough. And these beliefs sort of propel us into certain behaviors, and they propel us in certain directions because we sort of write off options that we believe are not available to us because on some level we believe we're not blank enough to make that happen. So that's not an option, so let's choose other options. Love and companionship is a very interesting thing because I believe that when we find real love, when we find a real companion, what we're finding is someone who is ultimately willing and able to hold a mirror up to our faces so that we can see how we are showing up in the world. It gets reflected back to us, and how we are showing up in that relationship specifically. And very often we're seeing things that we're not in love with, we don't like, but it's good to know that these things exist because then we can make those corrections. We can understand that we don't know, and I don't think we'll ever know. I think we all have a certain amount of dysmorphia physically and proverbially speaking about how we are, how we look, and how we show up in the world. So in a relationship, we have our behaviors reflected back to us, and we have the opportunity to make corrections so those behaviors get corrected if they need to be. But I think that on some level we believe that if we don't have that one person in our life, that we are just existing. We're existing, and we're existing at that default that every single one of us has, that we go back to that default. When we're alone, when money's tight, when things get a little bit bumpy, we go back to that default. And many people think, oh, you know what, I'm back here. Okay, whatever. The urge to love, the urge to partner, ultimately brings love into the equation. It brings companionship, it brings accompaniment, and that accompaniment brings the mirror that reflects back to us how we're operating. Our quirks, our dysfunctions, our manner of being, everything gets reflected back to us by that person navigating their life by our side. And by doing so, by navigating their life by our side, what this person or these people are doing for us is they are giving us an inkling of the understanding that we are actually okay, that we are enough, because their sheer presence proves it. They have chosen to spend their lives in companionship with us. They have chosen to be with us for all of their time, or the majority of their time. And so that alone starts to, on some level, and again, it's usually unconscious, but on some level, that triggers something in us, and I'm sure there's a scientific explanation for it, endorphins and whatever, I don't know what that is. But all of a sudden, we feel better about ourselves because someone else is validating us. Someone else is letting us know that we are enough, special enough, funny enough, good looking enough, whatever, to be with long term. And that's a huge thing. That allows us to see ourselves through their eyes, through the lens that they see us through. And in many cases, it's a very different lens from the ones that we've been seeing ourselves through. We begin to understand that we are enough of everything, that we are maybe more than enough of everything. All those things that we hope to be, that hoping and that assumption that we weren't those things, wasted time. It's all because of that person traveling by our side. Now, it doesn't only happen, this awakening or this realization doesn't only happen through someone else being with us. I don't want to insinuate that it's only because we're in a relationship that all of a sudden we can come to the conclusion that we're like okay as we are. In fact, quite the contrary. In the book that I'm publishing at the end of this week, A Year in the Light, Spiritual Life Hacks, Daily Spiritual Life Hacks, Intentions, and Reminders, I wrote, and I've got it somewhere here, hang on, here. You are no less worthy or important if you're single, and you are not better or more important when coupled. You are always you. Whether or not there is someone to share your life with, Nothing and no one makes you anything other than yourself. And no one changes your worth, your brilliance, or your contribution to this world. So let me just make that very clear. You're not better off if you're in a relationship. You're not better off if you're alone. You're always simply you. And you are you. All of the potential, all of everything that you have to offer is there from the beginning. We can come to the realizing what that is, really how magnificent, and the magnitude of what that is through a relationship. That also happens through spiritual study. Spiritual study brings us into another well or pool of knowledge that starts to speak to energy. Who we are as human beings, and matter, and form, and then who we are as the energy that animates that matter and form, and the characteristics of that energy, and starts to open our mind up to the world of energy, and we start to understand that we have been identifying with appearances for far too long, which does everybody a disservice. It keeps us in competition with each other. And then all of a sudden we start to see what we share. And we become able to focus on what we share versus what we don't, what separates us. And ultimately, we start to realize that the energy in the body that animates this frame is perfect the way it is. It's not too much or not enough of anything. It is exactly what it is. Listen, it is. So that alone is a miracle. We are miracles. And this happens through spiritual study. Now, regardless of whether or not you have found someone, regardless of whether or not you've done the spiritual work, know that we are all inclined to feel our way forward. Sometimes it feels like we're doing it blindly, sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it, and sometimes we don't know why. But we are feeling our way forwards towards the understanding that that which we seek, we already embody. That all the things we want someone else to tell us we already are. All of it. Within you, it already exists. Know this. All the things that you're looking for, you already have. We have everything we need. We are perfect. This realization comes to some when they can see themselves through the lens that someone else offers. Through others, it happens through spiritual study. But we all eventually come to this realization. Some of us it happens later in life, some of it we get it, or some others rather, we get it very early in life, but ultimately this is where we're all heading. Understand something. Understand that all the time that you have spent thinking that you're not blank enough, and fill in that blank with whatever word you want to fill it in with, has been wasted. It is a waste of time. To believe that we're not enough, to believe that we're not capable enough, that we don't deserve, is a waste of time. To make decisions based out of fear instead of trusting that things will go the way we want them to go, that's a waste of time. That stuff keeps us stagnant and silent and stationary and all the S's. I always tell classes, it's always all the S's. So with the understanding that this is wasted time, let's see if we can change the record now. Let's see if we can lift that needle off the groove that has been, like, the needle has been stuck in for years and years and years, and that groove is deep and deeply ingrained. Let's see if we can lift that needle out of that groove and move it over to another part of the record and create a different groove. A groove where we stop wasting energy and we stop wasting time. And we go out into the world with the inherent belief that we are enough as we are. And we start to test it. Especially those of us who have operated for a certain amount of time believing that we weren't enough. Let's test it. Let's do some serious exposure therapy. Let's put ourselves out there. Maybe forget about the makeup. Maybe forget about the funny, witty repartee. Forget about all the things, all the masks and all the armoring that we put on before we go out into the world because we think that we need those things to be acceptable, and just go out into the world and see how that goes. Let's see how it goes. Try it. See how it goes. You may just realize that you are already what you have been seeking. You may realize that you already embody everything that you've been seeking. You may realize that you're already all of it. Already. Now. So, give it a go. Go out there. Go out into the rest of your day. After you watch this video, go out into the rest of your day and just test it. operate from the assumption, the belief, the knowledge, the understanding, whatever you want to call it, that you are enough as you are. You don't have to fix anything. See how it goes. See you later.